Last week, we reported on the UN's call for a ceasefire in Syria. That was ignored, and the Syrian pro-Assad forces have kept up the punishing assault on civilians in Eastern Ghouta, that's just outside Damascus. On Friday, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights said the assault likely included war crimes and potentially crimes against humanity. CBS News correspondent Seth Doane filed this report from Damascus. He was there under the supervision of the Syrian government.
Syrian and Russian forces are trying to strangle the mix of militant groups who've dug into the Damascus suburb. But they're also suffocating hundreds of thousands of civilians. Activists have released images from inside. The barrel bombs keep coming, this man said. There's nothing left. Destruction in Eastern Ghouta is widespread, and more than 600 civilians, including about 150 children, are believed to have died in the last 2 weeks. Syrian soldiers are taking us to what is now the front line in this fight for Eastern Ghouta. There in the distance, we could see the prize for Syrian forces, the rebel-held area they'd like to recapture to solidify control of the capital. This is one of the actual humanitarian corridors that has been set up. It is a pathway designed to allow civilians to flee Eastern Ghouta and aid to get in. The UN has said that daily 5-hour pause in hostilities is not long enough to effectively distribute aid. Fearful residents haven't crossed, and the patchwork of militant groups vying for power in Eastern Ghouta leaves no clear negotiating partner. It's impossible for us to travel to the heart of Eastern Ghouta, so we reached one doctor by telephone. He told us his hospital was bombed and he's been doing surgeries underground. What is most difficult for you?
Everything is most difficult. Most difficult for me to see my patients die, and I cannot do anything to help.
Here on the government side of this conflict, which is all we have access to, support for President Bashar al-Assad is strong. We keep hearing how after 7 years of war, people are weary and just want this war ended. Rebels have fought back with what they have. Often it's mortars fired into neighborhoods that back the government. This man's house was just recently hit by mortars. He's asked us to come upstairs to see. You say you were... We wondered what Safran Hamadeh thought about civilians trapped in Eastern Ghouta. I don't worry about them, he told us. They hit my house. They are terrorists, not civilians. This is your son? How old? At a Damascus hospital, we met a man recovering from a rebel attack that killed his 4-year-old son. Nihad Asaf is his doctor.
It is very difficult to see any person who suffer from injury or anything like that. Any person. Either side. Either side.
It was a glimpse of humanity and civility in a conflict that's torn this country apart, killed hundreds of thousands, and displaced millions. Amid all of that, civilians are forced to live with the consequences and find some way to cope.
That's Seth Doane reporting from Syria. And we'll be back in a moment.